Dr. Tetiana. Thank you for joining, Dr. Tetiana, and thank you for accepting our proposal. The stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Hello, dear colleagues. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Thanks a lot for the invitation. It's a big pleasure for me to share my experience and the topic of my speech today, the navigation AI in scientific publishing, a publisher's perspective. Let's start with the explanation of why artificial intelligence has become such an important issue in scientific publishing. AI is no longer a future topic. It's already part of the publishing process, from writing the manuscript to editorial checks before publication. For this reason, publishers, editors, reviewers, and authors all need to understand both its benefits and its risks. First, AI matters in manuscript writing. Many researchers now use AI tools to improve grammar, like text, clear, summarize articles, organize ideas, or even draft part of the paper. This can save time and support non-native English speakers. However, there are also clear risks. AI can produce false reference, inaccurate statements, or text that sounds good but lacks real depth. As a result, authors must always check and verify everything before submission. Second, AI is also affecting peer review. Reviewers may use AI to summarize manuscripts or help them understand complex text more quickly. In some cases, this may improve efficiency. At the same time, it creates serious concerns. A manuscript under review is confidential, so uploading into the public AI tools may break confidentiality rules. There is also danger that the reviewers may rely too much on AI-generated options instead of making their own independent judgment. Third, AI creates problems for plagiarism and text originality. In the past, originality was often judged by comparing the text with another text. Now the situation is more complex. AI can paraphrase, rewrite, or combine ideas in ways that are difficult to trace. This makes it harder to decide what is a truly original work and what is recycled or machine-shaped content. For publishers, this raises questions about the real intellectual contribution of the author. Fourth, AI matters because of image and figure manipulation. AI tools can create or change images, graphs, visual abstracts, and other figures. Some changes may seem harmless, such as improving layout or design, but other changes can be misleading. Images may present false evidence, hide important details, or irrigate findings. If such changes are not disclosed, they may damage trust in the research record. Fifth, AI raises concerns about authorship and accountability. A publisher must know who actually creates the content, who checked it, and who takes the responsibility for it. AI cannot be responsible for errors, bias, misconduct, or false information. Only human authors can do that. This is why many publishers state clearly that AI tools cannot be listed as authors, even if they were used. Another important group is readers. Readers include researchers, students, practitioners, and policymakers who publish work. They expect research to be reliable, transparent, and trustworthy. If AI is used irresponsibly, reader trust may be damaged. We should also include indexing databases. This system helps organize scientific knowledge, improve discoverability, and track citation and impact. They are affected indirectly because the quality and reliability of indexes content matter for the whole research ecosystem. Finally, there are AI tools themselves. They're not human stakeholders, we understand, but they now influence nearly every stage of publishing. They can support writing, reviewing, screening, editing, and dissemination. At the same time, they can also introduce errors, bias, and ethical concerns. The key message of this slide to you is that AI is not changing the work of only one group. It's reshaping the whole publishing ecosystem. For that reason, responsibility must be shared, but human accountability must remain clear. Next slide. This slide is especially important for students or PhD students because it shows a simple distinction between acceptable and unacceptable uses of AI in scientific publishing. The main issue is not whether AI is used at all. The real issue is how it is used, whether its use is honest, transparent, and responsible. On the acceptable side, AI can be used for grammar correction and readability improvement. This is often helpful, especially for researchers who are not native speakers of English. AI might also help language polishing, improving sentence flow, or making the text clear. In many cases, this is similar to using proofreading tools, as long as the author still checks the final text carefully. AI can also be acceptable for coding help, but only when the output is verified by the researcher. For example, AI may suggest code in R or Python, explain an error, or help improve structure. However, the author must taste the code, understand what it does, and confirm that the results are correct. AI may also support formatting and idea organization, for example, by helping structure a draft of summarized planning notes. On the unacceptable side, the situation is very different. It's clearly wrong to use AI for fabricated citations. It's a reference, if a reference does not exist, or if the AI invents bibliographic details, this is misleading and can damage the credibility of the paper. The same is true for invented results or data. AI must never be used to create findings that were not actually produced by research. It's also unacceptable to generate fake peer-reviewed reports or other false evaluation material. Another serious problem is image manipulation. If AI is used to change figures, graphs, or image in a way that misrepresents the evidence, this becomes a research integrity issue. Even if the visual looks attractive, it cannot distort the scientific meaning. A particularly important issue is the hidden AI-generated content presented as original thought. If a researcher uses AI to generate substantial text, arguments, or analyze, and then present it as entirely their own intellectual work, this creates a problem of authorship, originality, and trust. In some journals, it may also violate disclosure rules of AI use is not reported where required. The key message is very simple. AI may support the work, but it must not replace honesty, verification, and human responsibility. Researchers remain accountable for everything they submit, no matter which tool they use. This slide presents a simple risk matrix for thinking about AI use in scientific publishing. The purpose is to show that not all AI applications are quickly useful, and not all of them carry the same level of risk. Some tools are relatively safe, but offer limited value, while others can be very helpful, but also create serious problems if they are not checked carefully. In the low risk and low benefit area, we can place tools such as basic spell checking, simple grammar correction, or minor formatting help. These uses are usually not controversial. They do not normally change the scientific context of the paper, and the risk of serious harm is quite low. However, their benefit is also limited because they mainly improve presentation rather than substance. In the low risk and high benefit left corner on the top, in this area, we can place users such of readability improvement, coding support with verification, and structured summarizing of notes. This application can save time and improve clarity while still remaining manageable as long as the researcher checks the output. For many students, for many PhD students, this is probably the most practical and safest area of AI support. The next area is the high risk and low benefit. This includes blind paraphrasing, unchecked reference generation, and automatic rewriting simply to make text sound more academic. They can distort meaning, introduce false citation, or produce vague and artificial language. In other words, the risk is high, but the real benefit is often small. And finally, there is a high risk and high benefit area on the right side on the top. This includes literature synthesis, data analysis support, image generation, and drafting substantial parts of the text. These tools can be very powerful. They may save a large amount of time and support complex tasks. At the same time, they can produce hallucinated references, wrong interpretations, misleading visuals, or overconfident conclusions. This means they should never be used without strong human oversight. The main message of this slide is that the most useful AI tools are often the ones that require the most caution. High potential benefit does not mean low danger. From a publisher's perspective, the key issue is not only what the tool can do, but whether the researcher verifies the output, disclosed its use where needed, and remains fully responsible for the final work. This slide summarizes the main issues as publishers usually care about when AI is used in scientific publishing. The exact wording may differ between journals and publishers, but core concerns are often very similar. In most cases, the question is not simply whether AI was used. The real question is where it was used in the responsible and transparent way. The first issue is disclosure. Many publishers want authors to explain whether AI was used, and if so, for what purpose. For example, a journal may ask whether AI was used for language editing, image creation, or drafting text. Disclosure is important because it helps editors and readers understand how the manuscript was prepared. The second issue is accountability. Publishers expect human authors to take full responsibility for the manuscript. This means that even if AI was used, the authors must still verify all facts, references, analyses, and conclusions. AI cannot carry responsibility if something is wrong. This responsibility remains with the researchers. A related issue is authorship. Many publishers create clearly that AI tools cannot be listed as the authors. This is because authorship requires responsibility, intellectual contribution, and the ability to answer questions about the work. AI cannot do that. It may be used as a tool, but it is not recognized as the author in normal academic sense. Another major concern is confidentiality. This is especially important in peer review. Unpublished manuscripts, reviewer reports, and editorial decisions are confidential materials. Uploading them into the public AI tools may break journals' rules and damage trust in the review process. Reviewers and editors must be especially careful there. Publishers also care deeply about research integrity. AI must not be used in ways that create false or misleading signs. This includes fabricated data, invented citation, manipulated images, or inaccurate claims that have not been checked. The use of AI should support research quality, not weaken it. Two further concerns are copyright and data protection. Copyright means that the author must respect the author ownership of text, images, tables, and other content. They cannot simply reuse material without permission. Data protection is also essential, especially when research involves personal, confidential, or restricted information. Such material must not be exposed to AI system in appropriate ways. The key message is that the publishers usually focus on trust. They want to protect the credibility of the scientific record. From their point of view, AI is acceptable only when it's used with the transparency, human control, and respect for ethical and legal standards. This slide explains one of the clearest positions of current scientific publishing. AI can be a tool, but it cannot be an author. Major publishers such as Elsevier or Springer Nature state that authorship requires responsibilities that only humans can fulfill. This includes accountability for the accuracy and integrity of the work, approval of the final version, agreement to submission. Springer Nature also states that there must be human accountability for the final version of the text. The first reason is accountability. If a paper contains an error, misleading claims, or ethical problem, the author must answer for it. A cannot appear before an editor respond to criticism or take responsibility for correction or retraction. The second reason is the final approval. A real author must read the final manuscript, approve it, and agree that it should be submitted. AI cannot do this in any meaningful legal or ethical sense. Publishers, therefore, treat AI as a support tool, not as the right-bearing participant in authorship. There is also a wider issue of legal and ethical responsibility. Authorship is linked to copyright, conflicts of interest, consent, and responsibility for research integrity. Elsevier's policy explicitly says that AI tools should not be listed as authors or co-authors because authorship involves duties that can only be performed by humans. Its policy also says manuscripts must represent the author's authentic and original contribution, even when AI has been used during preparation. There are already real-world examples that show why this issue became important so quickly. In 2023, editorial of Nurse Education and Practice listed ChatGPT as a co-author, which sparked broad debate across the academic community. Science Direct's volume page of Nurse Education and Practice shows this item in volume 66, January 2023, and it lists Sayabach O'Connor ChatGPT on the page. A later letter in the same journal, Is ChatGPT is valid author, explicitly states that this early article was one in which authorship was shared with ChatGPT, and it points to the same DOI. Around the same period, a Springer Nature paper initially included ChatGPT in the author list, but the publisher later issued a correction and removed the chatbot from authorship. And Nature states that the large language models do not satisfy authorship requirements and that in their use must be disclosed. Springer Nature states that it does not attribute authorship to AI and requires human accountability and transparent declaration of AI use. Elsevier states that AI assistant tools cannot be credited as an author and that authors remain responsible for the manuscript. These cases helped push publishers toward clear rules. The main message for students is very simple. Using AI does not automatically break the rules, but presented AI as another does, as the author does. You may use AI for limited support, depending on the journal policy, but the manuscript must remain your work, your judgment, and your responsibility. That's why responsibility must stay only with human authors. This slide presents 4 short case studies that help us think about AI use in real publishing situation. These examples are especially useful for students and PhD students because they show that the question is often not simply whether AI was used, but whether it was used responsibly. The first case is a student who used AI to improve English. In many situations, there is one of the least problematic uses of AI. A tool may help correct grammar, improve sentence flow, or make the text easily to read. This can be especially helpful for non-native English speakers. From the publisher's perspective, this is usually acceptable as long as the student checks the final wording carefully and follows the journal's disclosure rules if disclosure is required, of course. The second case is much more serious. The reviewer pasted part of the confidential manuscript into the public chatbot in order to save time when writing review comments. This creates a clear confidentiality problem. Manuscripts under review are not public documents. Reviewers are trusted to protect them. If confidential content is uploaded into the public AI system, this may break journal rules and damage trust to the peer review process. In most cases, publishers would view these as unacceptable. And the third case concerns an author who used AI to help draft a literature review and then leaves a fake reference in the manuscript. There is very common risk with generative AI. The reference may look realistic, but some may not exist at all. From the publisher point of view, this is a research integrity issue. The author is fully responsible for checking every source before submission. It's not a valid excuse to say that AI created the mistake. No. The fourth case involves AI-generated figures used without disclosure. This can be difficult area because not all visual support is necessarily deceptive. For example, AI might be used for layout or design. However, if figures are generated or altered in a way that affect meaning, interpretation, or the appearance of evidence, then the issue becomes much more serious. If such use in hidden, it may mislead editors, reviewers, and readers. That's why many publishers expect transparency when AI was shaped visual materials. The key message from this case study is that responsible AI used depends on 4 main principles: transparency, verification, confidentiality, and human responsibility. If one of these principles is ignored, even convenient use of AI can become unacceptable in scientific publishing. This slide presents some common warning since that editors may notice when they screen a manuscript. These things do not automatically prove misconduct, and they do not always mean that AI was used appropriately. However, they can indicate that the paper needs closer attention before it moves further in the publication process. The first red flag is inconsistent writing style. For example, one part of the paper may be simple and direct, while another part suddenly becomes very formal, complex, or unnatural. This can suggest that different tools of different writing process were used without careful revision. Editors may notice when the manuscript does not sound like the coherent piece of the work. Another warning sign is genetic but polished text. Some manuscript sounds smooth and professional, but when editors read more carefully, the content may be vague, repetitive, or lacking clear argument. In other words, the language looks strong, but the meaning is weak. This can happen when AI-generated text is used without enough critical thinking or subject knowledge. A very serious red flag is a non-existent citation. These are references that look real, but cannot actually be found. Sometimes the title sounds plausible, the journal name seems correct, and the format is fine, but the source does not exist. Editors also look for inaccurate references, such as wrong authors, wrong years, or incorrect journal details. These problems damage trust in the manuscript and suggest that the references were not checked properly. Editors also pay attention to strange methodology description. If the method section is unclear, inconsistent, or does not match to the data or results, this may suggest that the manuscript was drafted carelessly or that the authors do not fully understand the research design. A good method section should be clear, precise, and closely connected to the actual study. Another important issue is unrealistic data patterns. If the result seems too perfect, too clean, or statistically unlikely, editors may become concerned. They may wonder whether the data were analyzed correctly, reported selectively, or even generated in an artificial way. Finally, editors may notice overly perfect visuals, graphs, figures, or images that look unusually smooth or artificial may raise questions, especially if they do not seem to match the rest of the study. The key message of this of the slide is the editors usually not to rely on sign alone, but when several red flags appear together, they may suggest poor quality work, careless AI use, or more serious integrity concerns. That's why authors must check not only the language of the paper, but also its references, method, data, and visual before submission. This slide presents a simple ethical decision tree for using AI in scientific publishing. The purpose is to help researchers, especially students and PhD students, ask the right questions before they submit the manuscript or use AI in the publication process. It's not enough to ask whether AI was helpful. The more important question is whether it was used in a way that ethical, transparent, and responsible. The first question is whether AI helped generate any part of the work. This may include text, data analysis, images, figures, or code. If the answer is no, then the researchers can continue with the normal checks for authorship and submission. If the answer is yes, then additional questions become important. The second question is whether the AI use was disclosed, if disclosed is required by the journal or publisher. Not all publishers have exactly the same rules, but many now expect authors to state whether AI was used and for what purpose. If disclosure is required and the author has not provided it, then the process should stop until this is corrected. The third question is whether the output was carefully verified by a human. This is one of the most important steps. AI can produce fluent text, convincing code, realistic figures, and references that appear correct. But some of this content may still be wrong, incomplete, or misleading. For this reason, every output must be checked carefully before it's included in the manuscript. The fourth question is whether the human authors take full responsibility for the final content. This is essential because AI cannot be responsible for errors, ethical problems, and scientific claims. If no human is ready to take responsibility, then the work is not ready for submission. The final question is whether confidentiality, copyright, or data protection could be breached. For example, it may be risky to upload unpublished materials into the public chatbot, to use copyrighted content without permission, or to expose personal or sensitive data through an IT system. If such a risk exists, the author should stop and assess the situation before moving further. The key message of this slide is very simple. Ethical AI use in publishing depends on four core principles: transparency, verification, responsibility, and legal awareness. If one of these elements is missing, the use of AI may become problematic, even if it seems convenient or efficient. This slide focuses on one very sensitive area of scientific publishing: the use of AI in peer review. Peer review is based on trust, confidentiality, and independent expert judgment. For that reason, publishers and editors are especially careful about how AI may be used by reviewers. On the acceptable side, reviewers may sometimes use AI in a limited way, but only if the journal policy allows it. For example, a reviewer might use a secure tool to improve the wording or clarity of their comments. In some cases, AI may help organize notes or make a review report more readable. However, even in this situation, the reviewer must still check everything carefully and make their own independent judgment. The most important issue is confidentiality. Manuscripts under review are not public documents. They often contain unpublished ideas, data, figures, interpretations. Reviewers should therefore not paste manuscript text into public chatbots or open AI systems. They should also not upload confidential tables, images, or supplementary files. Doing this may expose unpublished research to systems outside the control of the journal and may break the rule of peer review. Another major issue is bias. A system may reflect bias in language, training data, or patterns of judgment. If a reviewer relies too heavily on AI, they may affect fairness in evaluation of the manuscript. For example, AI may produce overconfident comments, favor familiar styles of writing, or simplify complex arguments in misleading ways. This is why AI should never replace the reviewer's own expertise. It's also important that reviewers do not let AI write the full review report for them. A peer review is not just a summary of the paper. It's an expert evaluation of quality, originality, methods, and contribution. These are human scholarly tasks. AI may help in a very limited way, but it cannot take over the responsibility of critical assessment. The key message is simple. Reviewers must protect confidentiality, avoid bias, and keep full responsibility for their judgment. From the publisher's perspective, AI may only be acceptable in peer review when it is used carefully, securely, and in a way that does not weaken trust in the review process. This slide explains some of the main copyright and legal issues linked to AI in scientific publishing. These issues are important because AI tools may generate text, images, code, or summarize very quickly, but speed does not remove legal obligation. Publishers still expect authors to respect copyright licenses, rules, and permissions. The first issue is ownership. In many publishing systems, copyright protection is closely connected to human authorship. The United States Copyright Office has explained that the work created with generative AI may be protected only to the extent that there is a sufficient human authorship in the final work. This means that the human intellectual contribution remains very important. The second issue is licensing. When researchers publish, they often either transfer certain rights to a publisher or publish under open license, such as a Creative Commons license. This affects what others may legally reuse. Publishers therefore expect authors to understand what rights they retain and what permissions they still be needed for later use of text, tables, or figures. The third issue is training data. There is an ongoing legal and policy debate about whether copyrighted work can be used to train generative AI system, under what exceptions or license, and with what safeguards. WIPO described this as a major current issue of copyright infrastructure, and the United States Copyright Office has separately analyzed generative AI training in dedicated 2025 report. The fourth issue is the reuse of copyright material. Authors sometimes think that if AI can generate a figure or rewrite a passage, the legal problem disappears. In fact, that is not necessarily true. If the output reproduces or closely imitates protected material, permission may still be needed unless the license already allows for use. Elsevier states that permission should generally be sought to reproduce substantial part of the copyrighted works, including illustration, charts, tables, photographs, and text. A practical example is a graphical abstract or figure created with AI from previously published image. Even if the image looks new, it may still be too close to original protected work. In addition, journals have specific limits on AI-generated or AR-element images. For example, Elsevier Journal Guidelines for some titles states that generative AI or AI-assisted tools are not permitted to create or change images in submitted manuscripts. The main message for students is simple. AI is a tool, not a legal shield. Before using or generating material with AI, authors should ask who owns it, what license applies, whether protected content is involved, and whether permission is needed. That is safest publisher perspective. This slide shows that AI is not used in the same way across all academic disciplines. The tools may look similar, but the risk and expectation are different because each field works with different types of data, methods, and standards of evidence. Publishers, therefore, often see AI use through the discipline-specific lens rather than as one general issue for all research. In medicine, for example, AI may help with language improvement, literature screening, coding, and drafting some types of clinical or research text. However, medicine is a high-stakes field. So the concerns are especially serious. This includes patient confidentiality, safety, reporting quality, and the risk of misleading figures or unsupported claims. Recent healthcare focused reporting the reporting discussion also show that generative AI in medical research requires stronger reporting standards because poor documentation can directly affect trust and safety. In social science, AI is often used for literacy support, survey design, assistance, and qualitative data analysis. Here, the main problem is not only technical accuracy, but also interpretation. Qualitative and social research often depends on content, a nuance, a reflexivity, and careful handling or interview or survey material. Research work in this area highlights both the growing use of AI for qualitative analysis and the ethical concern that AI may weaken interpretative depths or create new confidentiality problems when sensitive data are processed through external systems. In engineering, AI is commonly used for code generation, debugging, simulation support, optimization, technical drafting. The potential benefit is high because these tasks are structured and often computation. At the same time, the risk if it generated code or model output might look correct while containing hidden errors. In publisher guidelines for technical journals, AI use is generally treated as acceptable only with disclosure and human verification, which reflects the importance of reproducibility and correctness in engineering work. In the humanities, AI is often used for translation, text analysis, idea mapping, archival search, and draft structuring. But the main concerns are different from those in engineering and medicine. Humanities scholarship often depends on interpretation, voice, originality, and subtle meaning. Recent work in digital humanities and related fields, therefore, raises a question about creativity, about authorship, ownership, and the possible loss of nuance when AI tools shape interpretation or general cultural content. Cambridge authors guidelines also explicitly states that authors should declare AI use for generated text of images, including translation support. The main message for students is very simple. The same AI tools not be acceptable for one content and much more problematic in another. That's why responsible AI use depends not only on the tool itself, but also on the discipline, the material being analyzed, and the standards of the field. This slide presents example of journal and publisher policies, as well as the recent academic discussion that help early stage researchers, students, and how AI should be used in publishing practice. The main lessons is that AI may support writing and research tasks, but its use must remain transparent, verified, and consistent with journal rules of disclosure, authorship, and research integrity. This slide gives a simple but very practical checklist for students or PhD students before submitting a manuscript. AI tools can save time, but they can also introduce mistakes that are easily to miss if the final checks are not done carefully. That's why it's a short pre-submission checklist is so useful. The first question is whether every citation was being verified. This means checking that the source really exists, that the bibliographic details are correct, and that the citation actually supports the point made in the text. A reference that looks academic is not enough. It must be real and accurate. The second question is whether AI use has been disclosed, of course, if disclosure is required. Different journals and publishers may have slightly different policies, so students and PhD students should always check the rules of the target journal. If AI was used for language editing, drafting, coding, or figures, the safest approach is to know the journal's policy before submission. The third question is whether the manuscript has been checked for hallucination. AI can produce text that sounds very convincing, even when some fact, reference, or interpretation are wrong. Authors must therefore review the manuscript carefully to identify invented claims, false references, or misleading statements. The fourth question concerns the originality of figures and tables. Students and PhD students should confirm that their visuals are original, correctly attributed, or used with proper permission. This is especially important if AI tools were involved in creating or changing visual materials. And the final question is the most important one. Am I fully accountable for all content? Students and PhD students should be ready to explain and defend every sentence, every result, every figure, and reference in the manuscript. If something cannot be explained clearly, then it should be checked again before submission. The key message is simple. AI may support the work, but the final responsibility always stays with the author. A careful final check is one of the best ways to protect both the quality of the paper and the reputation of the researcher. This slide addresses some common myths about AI in scientific publishing. These myths are important because they shape how early stage researchers think about AI. If students believe them too strongly, they may either overuse AI or avoid it. The first myth is that AI writes better papers. In reality, AI may help improve grammar, flow, and readability, but this does not automatically make a paper better. A strong scientific paper depends on much more than polished language. It needs a clear research question, appropriate methods, reliable evidence, and critical interpretation. AI can support presentation, but it cannot replace original scholarly thinking. The second myth is that AI saves time. This is only partly true. AI can certainly speed up some tasks, such as editing, summarizing, or formatting. However, the time is saved only if the output is correct and can be used after careful checking. If the AI produces false citation, vague arguments, or inaccurate analysis, then the author may spend extra time correcting mistakes. In this case, AI may actually create more work rather than less. The third myth is that AI use is banned. In most cases, there is not correct. Many journals and publishers do not completely prohibit AI. Instead, they regulate it. This means that some forms of use may be allowed, such as language improvement or limited drafting support, while other forms may be restricted or prohibited, especially where confidentiality, authorship, image integrity, or false content are involved. The key message is the researchers should approach AI realistically. It's neither a magic solution nor something that always forbidden. It's a tool that may be useful in some situation, but only when used with care, transparency, and full human responsibility. The final slide looks ahead and asks where scientific publishing is likely to go to the coming years. AI is already changing the publication process, but the bigger changes may still be ahead. The general direction is not toward fully automatic publishing. Instead, it's towards a system where AI becomes more common, where the need of human judgment becomes even stronger. The first likely development is a stronger AI disclosure norms. At the moment, journals and publishers do not always use exactly the same rules. Over the time, we can expect clear and more standard guidelines on when authors should disclosure AI use and how this should be described in manuscript. The second trend is the more automated screening. Editors and publishers are likely to rely more on tools and check reference, detect unusual language patterns, analyze visuals, and identify possible integrity concerns before a paper even reach peer review. This may make editorial process faster, but it may also increase the need for careful interpretation of screening results. A third development is better synthetic content detection. As AI-generated text and images become more sophisticated, publishers will also improve system for identifying suspicious or misleading content. This includes not only basic AI-generated text, but also manipulated figures, synthetic visuals, and patterns associated with paper mills or false submission. We are also likely to see more AI-assisted editorial workflows. AI may help with routine tasks such as manuscript triage, metadata check, review matching, copy editing support, and production steps. This does not mean that editors will disappear. Instead, the work may become more focused on judgment, oversight, and ethical decision making. Finally, there will be a growing need for IT literacy among researchers, among students, among PhD students. Early career researchers will need to understand not only how to use AI tools, but also how to question them. They will need to recognize hallucination, understand disclosure rules, protect confidentiality, and remain accountable for the final work. The key message of this closing slide is simple. The future of scientific publication is not a choice between AI and humans. It's about learning how to use AI responsibly in a system where trust, transparency, and human responsibility remain central. This is the main message of the presentation. AI can be useful in many parts of scientific publishing, from language improvement to editorial support, but it does not remove the author's responsibility. Researchers must still verify the content, follow journals' policies, disclose AI use where required, and protect the integrity of the scientific records. In simple terms, AI may assist the process, but trust in publishing still depends on human judgment, honesty, and accountability. This slide introduces our publishing house, RNP, and explain why its position is relevant in this presentation on AI and scientific publishing. Academic Research and Publishing, or RNP, it's a Hamburg, Germany-based publisher founded in 2022. It presents itself as the founder and publisher of several academic journals, and states that its work is aimed at supporting scholarly communication, editorial quality, and the development of advanced scientific area. From the perspective of this presentation, RNP is also a useful example because it has a clear published AI policy. The policy emphasizes transparency of the use of artificial intelligence and states that only human beings can be listed as authors, because only human can be accountable for all aspects of the work. It also explains that authors must indicate which AI technology was used and how it was used in the preparation of the manuscript or book. Another important point in policy is responsibility. RNP makes clear that authors remain responsible for verifying all AI created content, including factual claims, references, quotation, and reliability of figures. The policy also warns that a failure to disclose AI use may raise doubts about authorship and publication ethics and may even become a reason for rejection. Finally, RNP also highlights a copyright-related concerns. Its policy states the figures in submitted books should not be created or created using generative AI assistant technologies because this may create copyright problems. This is a strong example of how publisher policies are moving beyond general statements and addressing specific practical risk linked to IE use in publishing.